Hey there, folks. This is Chris McLean, Peak Performance and Transformation Coach, back again with another episode of the Peak Performance and Predictable Growth Show, the peak performance show for creative agency founders, owners, and leaders, where we explore the agency journey from the unique perspective of those at the coalface of the industry. And my guests help us unlock and dissect strategies, tools, and tactics from the trenches that are working right now to help you deliver better results for your clients and grow and scale your agency to 6-7 figures and beyond. It's my absolute pleasure to welcome Howle into the studio today. He's from Triple Effect, and they're going to help you create 6 months of video content for YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram TV, all filmed in 2 days. Sounds pretty awesome. And they also help people who have a message to share, usually business-orientated. However, they also love working with people who know know that they have a deeper calling than just making money. And this is something that Alan and I have connected with in the past. So I'm excited to welcome Alan on the show and get into it. Thanks for being here, mate.
Thanks for having me, Chris. Great to be on.
Absolute pleasure. So we connected briefly a couple of days ago, sort of booked the call in, and we connected a lot on that deeper calling side of things. So I'm sure we'll get into that. But let's sort of start where we start at the start. And how did this all come about? How did Triple Effect come about? How did you decide to focus on video and curating content for social?
Yeah. So, it all started. So when I first left school, I did a graphic design course, and when I did this graphic design course, I went into working with a couple of magazine companies and doing a couple of bits and pieces here and there, more so as a freelancer. Struggled to find some full-time work. I did find full-time work, but effectively, the work that I did find, it wasn't really paying the bills and everything else. So I had to find a different option. And that was when I sort of went into the corporate world. At the time, I was still young and dumb and didn't really know what I obviously know now when it comes to running a business and actually putting yourself out there as well. So went into the corporate world just over 12, 13 years, and slowly, like, always kept my skills in graphic design and everything else. And effectively it was a progression. So started off just doing some bits and pieces, logos, business cards and things like that for family, friends and everything else. And I guess I've got a really curious and creative brain. And so it's slowly evolved to social media marketing. I did build, tested and built an agency where we were running Facebook ads and looking at, different aspects with video and everything else. And I think just not only from my own journey of building and growing a personal brand with a business at the same time, as well as helping those around me who are looking for help on creatively getting a message out there and everything else, using design and using what I have and what I know. I'm like just literally taught myself how to use video editing programs and upskilled myself. I think the first camera that I was using was actually my father-in-law's camera, which is more a photography camera, but it had a video setting. And, right. And so when I was doing video, I was actually, using the equivalent of so I've got an iPhone 12 now, but I did have whatever it was, an iPhone 8 or whatever. And I was using it on like a stabilizer for a football team in Penrith in St Mary's. And so I was doing some video for them and everything else through a connection through my uncle. And the long and short of it is I just slowly evolved over a course of a period of time using literally getting paid to use an iPhone, to film stuff and edit it and everything else. And then slowly just evolved over a course of a period of time. It's really funny, and I know this may shoot myself in the foot, but I don't actually consider myself a videographer even to this date. There's some really cool people who have some really cool skills behind video and everything else. I think my my genius is all around the strategy side of things. And so to answer your question in a long-winded way, the way that we really got this up and running was out of necessity. I knew that, like, from my own experience of building my business and then helping those around me and some of the people that we do work with, using Facebook ads and different things, we just noticed that when you can humanize a business and really bring it back to the basics of having a human connecting with an audience or clients or customers in this digital world that we now live in, it brings that closer, like it brings that connectedness closer together. And depending on what it is, the service that you offer, or what it is, the product that you offer, obviously is going to apply differently to people, but people who really understand connecting and relationships understand that video is simply a vehicle to help you do it much better and at scale as well, and amplify what it is that you do and offer. To the point now where the last 2 years we've obviously focused in on video content, and created this process and program. This process where we do create 6 months worth of video content for YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. And it's literally just been out of a process of looking to get the best for, like, a little bit selfish on what would I want as a customer, or what would I want as a client, if I was looking at my own business, and then how do we implement that for our clients through a digital presence as well.
Yeah, awesome. Very much resonate with that process. That journey sound very, very familiar to my own. You're starting off with a bit of graphic design and flyers and brochures, and then going, I've kind of got a client here that wants this thing, so I'll learn how to do that thing. And I literally just had a conversation with Greg Hickman from Alt Agency a couple hours ago on the show, and we talked about this same thing, this idea that when you're starting out, it's really important that you do try a bunch of stuff. Yeah, you've got to go out and you've got to try a bit of Facebook, try a bit of YouTube, try some video, try some graphic, try some copywriting, and see what are you curious about, what are you actually good at, what do you enjoy, what are those. But unless you're playing in a few different fields and you're sort of just testing stuff out, you might miss that thing that's going to be the thing that you eventually latch onto. I love what you've said there. That journey is a really authentic way to come to. Tried a bunch of stuff out, realized I was pretty good at doing this thing over here, which was video. Yeah. And then that's something that I enjoyed. I got value out of it. My clients need it and they get value from it, and the market wants it. So if you can kind of get that stack lined up, that's a really, really good way to, particularly at the start of a business. For me, that's kind of what that launch phase should really look like. You get 100%. Out, try a bunch of stuff, and then eventually you want to narrow down, hone down, niche down to this is the thing that I'm going to be great at. So and just to add one more thing onto that as well, and I think that this is probably relayed when we were having the conversation last week, is that whilst you obviously there's strategy, video is effective if done correctly, and everything else. But I think the real part of the strategy part that we focus on is really bringing out the best in people. Because I can throw as many statistics on video converts better when it's your landing page will convert better when there's a video on it. And I can throw statistics at people, and I can throw all sorts of numbers here on this show. But at the end of the day, if you can learn how to bring out the very best in people, which is something that we really focus in on, and do things a little bit differently. Even just an example of how we do things differently. We take people through a guided meditation before they even start doing any strategy. Regardless of your spiritual beliefs, whether you meditate or not, it's simply just to get you into a peak state, so that any creativity that you bring to a video presence, you're already at your peak state, and you're already bringing the very best to the planning stages.
which is going to then have you perform as best as you possibly can when it comes to the video, and then all the strategy and all the editing and all the other bits and pieces that we can do along the way, then just falls in place as well.
I love that, man. I love that. I think that's a whole next level for businesses to start thinking about, is bringing that mindfulness and that gratitude and these types of practices, even breathing, centering, aligning practices into a strategy session. I think that's really, really cool. And exactly like you're saying, creativity and inspiration flourish kind of in the space between, right? So when you come in, imagine you come into a strategy session exhausted, haven't slept well, haven't eaten well, running on caffeine and Red Bull, thinking about the day ahead, all the stuff. I had a fight with my wife last night, and I got to pick my kids up later, all this stress. And then you're going to go do an amazing video presentation to your ideal client, right? You're bringing all of that energy into it. So I really love that idea that you're creating that space for that creativity to genuinely flourish, because it exists in that space, in that non-time, that non-space in between all that stuff. So if you can get that flushing instead, drop into that peak state, the strategy that's going to come out is going to be much more inspired, aligned, and genuinely creative, because you can start to connect far-flung ideas into something useful, which really is that's what creativity is. So I love that. So how do people react to that? When you say, right, we're going to do a strategy session, guys. Okay, now let's meditate. I can imagine that would be a really interesting.
Well, look, I think it's actually it's much more accepted now than probably it was maybe even 5 years ago or even 2 years ago. I think people are open to it, and a lot more people meditate and have some sort of daily practice, regardless whether it's meditation and or sitting in a car, equivalent of a meditation. Maybe it's sitting in the car and listening to, like, not listening to any music and just thinking about their day and whatever the case is. So regardless of where someone's at, it's actually because I was concerned, I probably had the exact same thoughts. I was like, are people just going to think like I'm trying to enforce some sort of religious cult or something onto them? But or something like that's what I was thinking to myself. But it's like, when I think back, when I explain it to someone, they're just like, oh yeah, makes sense. And I was like, well, it does make logical sense, because regardless of where you're at, it's simply just bringing out the very best creativity, the very best of your imagination, and the very best of you. And if you can, and all that is obviously peak state. And if you can bring yourself to that peak state, and then bring all of that out during that process as well, not only are you going to bring, like, you just got your best foot forward to start off with. And so I'm very upfront about the process, because it's all like our guided meditation and everything else. It's in our modules and it's in our training. So it's not like a live thing. It's all pre-recorded. People can go through it at their own pace and time and everything else. But then, there is also, because everyone's different. Some people come to me and they'll have, stacks and stacks of video content that they've already done and completed. And they're like, you know what, Alan, what interested me was the fact that you just offer a system, you film it all, you edit it all, you publish it all, and I don't need to think about it again. And for that reason, it's a no-brainer to me. This is something that's taking up some of my time. It's great, but I could be doing other things like selling real estate or being on more calls or whatever the case is, rather than having to do that. And then versus someone who's starting for the very first time, doesn't have knows that they want to do video, but doesn't have a really clear idea on how to get started, what to say, how to do it, how to know if they're even doing it correctly. And we guide them through every step of the way. So, yeah.
Yeah, how do you find that part of the process? Because obviously video is massive right now, and conversion rates, view rates on video are sort of through the roof. That is, if you had to pick a format, if you generalizing, right, if you had to pick a format, video is king at the moment, whether it's short form, 30-second, 60-second TikToks, long form podcast format, video really is key and really is king. But some people just suck at being on camera. Have you had that condition? And I imagine, getting that peak state and that stepping into yourself and stepping more into your energy and your power can help with that. But have you had that situation where someone's like, I know I need to do video purely because I believe that's what's going to convert better for me. That's what's in the market. I want to do it, but I suck at it. I have no camera presence, or I can't present. I don't speak well. How do you manage that with people coming in?
Yeah, absolutely. So it will obviously be a case-by-case scenario. Everyone will have, every single person you speak to will have something different. So, I have I have very interesting conversations a lot. And some of them tend to be about just needing a little bit of self-belief. Other people like to potentially overcomplicate what it is that they're trying to do and achieve. And because of that, they then try and perfect their message. And then you also have people who are so fucking scared of what people are going to say once it's out there. They're not afraid to film. They're not afraid to do everything behind the scenes. They're petrified of what people are going to say. And if there was one thing that I could share for anyone listening who's thinking about doing some video and potentially facing one of those problems that I've just gone through, is really just coming back to your message and why you're sharing it in the first place. Because the biggest thing I think people do is they underestimate the effectiveness of the message that they want to share and the effectiveness of what it is that they have to offer. And because they underestimate it, they play down what they've got to share, or they are scared to share all of what they have. And I actually think, we talk about fears and we talk about, being in front of a camera. I think from my experience, the biggest thing that I see that actually stands in people's way is they're actually scared of reaching their full potential and actually moving forward with what they're truly capable of. Because, and sometimes that, it's just they need someone to believe in them. Sometimes they need a little bit of guidance to build some momentum to get them on their way. And sometimes they just need to know that, you're actually doing the right thing. Just keep going. And the thing is, as you'd know, a lot of people will sometimes think about external things, but you've just got to continue to focus on yourself. And yes, there's always areas to improve. Yes, there's feedback that you do want to take on, but make sure that any feedback that you take on, make sure anything that you're listening to, it's all aligned to moving forward rather than containing you and perfecting things. Because perfecting things never got anyone anywhere. There's always different things that you can improve, but we're imperfect beings and you're never going to get things exactly right. And sometimes it's better to get imperfect action out to build the momentum so that you can make some tweaks later on, make some improvements later on.
Yeah, that ready, fire, aim approach, right?
Absolutely.
Work out the details later. Imperfect action always beats perfect stagnation, right?
Absolutely.
Better just to get out and get it done and sort of step into something. And most of the time it turns out that the people that you're worried about judging you, not validating you, whatever that is, most of the time they don't give a shit anyway.
No.
Right? People that we put, I'm going to put it out and my mum's going to see it and my auntie's going to see it and my mates from high school are going to see it, and then they go, what the hell is Chris doing? Why is he doing this thing? That's so stupid. That's not him. But most people, that doesn't happen. The people they think that's going to happen with, we've got this perception. most of them, they're so busy with their own stuff that they generally either just ignore it or they'll actually be really supportive. They'll see, I think people genuinely love seeing people they know stepping into something bigger, stepping into a purpose. That's the hero's journey, right? Essentially, that's the hero archetype. We love to see people stepping into their full potential, and then we get curious about that. And we go, how did Alan unlock that? How has he stepped into that? How has he become this confident, in control person? From I remember him being here, and I've seen him unlock this potential. I love what you said there. And I think that is a big blocker, that people are more afraid of stepping into what they could be than not progressing, or sort of staying with. It's not a fear of before; it's a fear of what could be a lot of the time. And stepping into that true potential, because that becomes, it's another role, right? We're stepping into another role, another character, a different avatar, and we get concerned that we're going to lose all this social validation and all that other stuff that gets tied up in that. So that's what you have to deal with when people are coming. They're bringing all of that stuff in. They're bringing all of that psychological load, all of that cognitive load into film day, and I'm going to shoot 6 months of content today in the next 2 hours. They're bringing all of that. So I think that's an effective mechanism to delete that out. Sorry.
Exactly. And sorry to jump in as well, but that's part of the process as well, is obviously getting people to that peak state. Then when you're on the day, half of the trouble is that a lot of people stuff around and fuck around trying to work out the details. But if you've worked out all the details, you've done all your planning, you've done all your strategy, and you know exactly what you're doing, you know exactly how you're executing YouTube and or any of the other platforms, right? Then it's literally just about delivering, and you've got less things to focus on other than obviously delivering your message. And one of the most common things, like you were sort of asking and talking about, people think about what their aunties, friends, people who may not like them, what are they going to think about? At the end of the day, I actually, and everyone does go through this, including me. When I first started doing video content, I used to be petrified of what people would say. And here's what I will say is that there's people who will never, like, out of 100 people who are potentially going to see your video, right? There's potentially 10 people who, no matter what you do, will fucking hate you, will look for an opportunity to bag you out or throw dirt in some way, shape, or form, right? So those 10 people exist, great. There's probably 80 people in between who are happy with what you're doing, don't really care, may have thoughts or comments about it if you ask them, but they're just honestly not phased either way. And then there's another 10 people who really love everything you do, will sit and listen and soak up what it is that you have to say, what it is that you have to offer, really find value in what you're teaching. And when we work with people, I actually tell people to focus on these 10 people who are just sitting there, like leaning forward, listening, and taking in everything that you're sharing. Because not only are you going to then bring your best for those 10 people when you're narrow-sighted on those 10 people, you're also going to attract more of those people out of the pool that may not care just yet, because you're now bringing out more of your uniqueness. You're now bringing out more of your passion. You're now bringing out more of your fire. And that's like, whoa, who's this? Like, I thought I knew Alan, or I thought I knew Chris, and he's now bringing this passion, this different energy that I haven't seen. I'm now interested in what you have to talk about. And you can see that, like, as you continue to go down that path and build that momentum, like, regardless of what those 10 people who like will just throw dirt and have nothing better to do. Yeah, haters and trolls, so like, who have nothing better to do than like hate on you because they hate their own lives. Don't worry about them. Just focus on the people who are actually receiving the message, because they're going to be the ones to continue to support you, bring more followers, tag more people, all those other things that generally just organically happen when it comes to video.
Yeah, I love that. I think it's super important. And a lot of times when you're thinking about presenting a video, think about the one person that you're speaking to, As I say, you've done that strategy, you know who you're speaking to, you know what the message is. Connect with that one person. Imagine you're looking down the barrel of the camera and you're connecting with that one super fan, right? That person that just absolutely loves everything that comes out of your mouth, the way that you might say things weird, you might swear a bit, you might get confused a bit or mess your language up or not say exactly the right thing, but they're going to love that weirdness. They're going to love that intricacy, and they're going to connect with that because they go, oh, this person's fallible and I'm fallible too, and we're all human. And now you've got a genuine human connection rather than something that's super polished, super Hollywood, super stylized, that they might go, okay, I get it and I resonate with the message. But yeah, as you said, human to human, we want to see that fallibility. We just want to see someone that maybe messes their words up a bit or looks like they're a bit lost, but then comes back and just drops that one aha moment in a 20-minute video. There's that one phrase that you drop that they go, yep, that I get it. They get me. How can we work together?
Absolutely. Yeah. 100%. And like just on that last point, it's not always about how cleverly you deliver a message. Sometimes it's about getting to a point where you may be stuck or you've delivered something and it seems confusing, and then how you then come back and pick that up or come through and finish it as well. And it's the same. And you're talking about the hero's journey before, and I think that like the hero didn't become the hero by simply winning every time, you know. They had to go overcome personal challenges, maybe were defeated in the past, and those situations and circumstances built that character. And just like it does take time, for anyone who's watching and thinking about video, just know that it may not be perfect the first time you do it, and that's okay. But that's what building character and that's what these situations and circumstances are all about, is trying, testing, learning, reviewing, and giving it another crack, giving it another go. And yeah, it's
all about exposure, right? You don't, the classic analogy is you don't see your toddler start to walk for the first time and fall over and go, oh, well, I guess walking's not for you. You know, you're always going to fall. Everything's a process, right? You got to get exposure to this stuff, and that just do it. I mean, I remember when I first started doing video, I was doing sort of affiliate marketing, 5, 6, 7 years ago, and hadn't done a lot of video and felt a lot of these same things of what are people going to think? I'm not great on camera. I tend to need to have to think deeply about stuff. I'm going to say the wrong thing, until you actually just turn the camera on and look down the barrel and say some stuff and then watch it back and go, ooh, it was kind of okay, until you actually just get that exposure of looking down the barrel, saying what you got to say, and just repeating that process over and over and over. Like anything, unless you do it and you get that exposure, you're not going to have the capacity to do it. And video can be something that's quite terrifying, because I think there's probably very few people that watch a video of themselves and go, I was amazing. Everything was perfect. I love how my voice sounded. I'm sure there's some people out there that have that kind of vanity, but it's like, oh, my hair was a bit off. The mustache was a bit off that time. I said that wrong word. Why did I say that wrong word?
Yeah.
We can always pick the negative out, but as you're saying, most people either don't care or they're going to be supportive because they see a real person.
Exactly right. And it's like you said, it's just about practicing. It takes time, patience, and everything else. But yeah, just got to keep working at it and keep going, and just keep leveling up. And as you level up, and again, back to the hero's journey, I really love the fact that you mentioned the hero's journey, because as that process happens, as that journey goes along, as you face challenges, as you have wins along the way, these are things that people are going to follow you for and are going to tune into to hear and listen and everything else about what's going on in your life. What are some of the things of value that you can share? What are some of the things that you've overcome? That vulnerability, especially especially in our world today where people, so often like throw dirt at social media for disconnecting us from real people and everything else. I actually feel that it's connected us in a different way, and it's giving us the opportunity to connect with people who are more like us in like-minded communities, whether that's through business, whether that's through consciousness, whether that's through you all support a local sports team, whether that's because your mum's, like there's a mums groups or whatever the case is. I think there's so much opportunity to now connect on through our digital channels and through our digital social media channels. And the more vulnerable that you can be, the more that you can connect inside yourself, and then share that vulnerability to that maybe helping someone who's potentially going through something similar and or going something for the very first time, or just needs that reaffirmation that they're not alone. Sometimes I think there's a lot of good that can come out of just sharing a message and just sharing what's going on.
Yeah, 100%. And obviously we live in a global society now, and finding tribe, finding communitas, finding community, finding mastermind is super important. We're social animals, and it's social media for a reason. And yeah. I love what you said. There is that stigma that it's disconnecting us, but some of that's probably true. But we're also got 20 years ago, I couldn't jump on a call and talk to someone in Bulgaria or Serbia or connect and have a mastermind with people from Tokyo. Unless you had a pen pal, you wrote a letter and you had this long communication cycle. So it has given us that access to find people more like ourselves. And from a business perspective, that's brilliant, because we can find, as you said, out of that 100 people, we can connect with that 10 people. And if we connect with 10, guess what? There's probably 1,000, 10,000, 100,000, 1 million Absolutely. Of that type of person out in the world that also could use your message, could use your help. So I think that's really, Absolutely. Really powerful.
Yeah.
Amazing, man. Thank you so much. It's a really, really, really interesting conversation. I'm sure we could probably prattle on for another hour or so, but we want to keep people's attention spans nice and tight so they can get back to their days. If people do want to come and get 6 months of content built out and recorded and done for their social in 2 days, or anything else that you might want to get done, what's the best way for them to come and find you?
So the best way is come to our website, which is trippleeffect.com.au. It's on the screen there. But I'm pretty much on all of the different socials if you search for Alan Howle, AlanHowle. And would love to connect with anyone. Regardless of whether you're thinking about doing video content or not, please reach out, please connect. I love connecting to people and, sharing tips, ideas and things like that. I do a whole stack of content on YouTube weekly, and other things throughout all of my socials anyway, but it would be great to connect.
Awesome. Yep. Go find Alan, get in touch, because I think you've got a really unique perspective. And I love that approach that you're taking to. Obviously, for me, peak performance is a massive part of what I teach and what I'm passionate about. So the more we can help people get into that state and combine that with their marketing and their strategy and getting out to the world, I think that's really, really powerful. So appreciate that you're bringing that to the world, mate, and great to be in touch. Thanks for dropping by. I'm sure we'll be in touch soon. And thanks for everyone at home or wherever you are in the world, out in the wilderness, connecting, dropping in today. Hope this has been super valuable. Look forward to catching you on the next episode. Until then, Alan, thanks for dropping by and thanks for watching.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks for having me on.
Pleasure. See you soon, guys.